Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Walter's World, the podcast series from Astadia. My name is Walter Sweat, and I'm Astadia's CTO. And these podcast series are designed to share pertinent information from great guests for people who are interested in mainframe modernization and migration. And today I am delighted to be joined by Jeff Keizer, who's the Director of Technical Operations for CPT, one of Astadia's strategic partners. Jeff, welcome. Glad to have you with us today.
Thanks, Walter. It's great to be here.
Appreciate it. Now, Jeff, while I know well who CPT is, I sort of recognize that CPT may not be a household name for everyone who's listening today. Can you tell us a little bit about CPT and the types of services that you as a company provide?
Sure, Walter. So CPT has been in business for nearly 30 years. We're actually publicly listed on the ASX. Headquarters are in Melbourne, Australia, and we operate 35 countries around the world. So, the CPT is not just an acronym. It actually stands for things. So the C is capacity, the P is for performance, and the T is for testing. So it's a very meaningful name to us, and it's kind of where our pedigree is. We do optimization services in those spaces. So we optimize capacity, we optimize performance, we optimize testing to deliver those business solutions and outcomes. A lot of that is in the mainframe space. That's where we started, but we've evolved well beyond that into the mid-range space and into the cloud space as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We at Astadia, who are focused on mainframe migration and modernization, we recognize that's only one part of the effort and things that people need to be concerned with. Optimization and performance and all of the things that you mentioned are really critical components of people being able to successfully judge what their options are moving forward. So that's really one of the reasons we're quite excited for partnering with CPT.
Yeah, it's not just about moving, it's about how you get there. It's the journey.
Absolutely right. Jeff, you mentioned that you're in 35 different countries. Are there some specific business areas that you and CPT have tended to focus on more than any others? Jeff, I think you went mute, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry. We generally work with our IT partners to deliver those business challenges that the business partners have challenges with. So it's around the customer and the user experience. So sometimes they're the end customer, sometimes it's the internal user that has those experiences. So it's how we improve availability, resiliency, response time, reducing total cost of ownership. So, when you think of those components and where we play, those apply to almost every industry in every business area. So we're quite agnostic, quite versatile from that perspective, in that we work everywhere and we work across all platforms.
It makes sense. It's important for people to know that it's not just siloed verticals that in which you work, that there is commonality as the same thing that we face, commonality that can provide benefit in all of the industries.
Yep.
Jeff, what about yourself? I'm sure the audience will be interested in learning a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, so I've got a bit of a storied history. So I've been both on the client side. I've been, in the business. I've been on the consulting side, both as, working for a vendor and also as an independent. So I started off doing product delivery and development, moved into a business IT operational role for almost a decade with a large insurer, got into some business development work with CPT actually, then actually left CPT for a while and did some independent consulting around application performance management and also got into cybersecurity as well. And then recently come back to CPT to help drive our modernization journey with our clients.
That's a varied and interesting background that you've got. You've seen it from all angles, it sure seems.
Yeah, it helps bring the perspective of both the client and the customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking about customers, I think that this is an important question. And the reason I ask it is oftentimes when we talk to new potential customers, they really don't know what to look for. They've never done this before. It's all new to them. So they don't even necessarily know what questions to ask. The question I would ask you then is, why would a customer or partner want to work with CPT? What is it that you're going to provide that would be really of importance to them?
Yeah, so one of the key reasons why CPT is so successful is because of our independence. So we work with a lot of customers, we work with a lot of different vendors, a lot of different partners, and we always work to our client's benefit. So it's what's right for our client in those contexts. So, in some cases it may be one vendor or partner, in other cases it may be another vendor or partner, but we always work to what's best for the client. And our customers really appreciate that view, and that we're not always, trying to push a particular vendor or a particular solution. We bring what's right for them, and that builds the trust in our relationships. We deal with a multitude of vendors and suppliers across the world, and we have a great depth of experience in our consultant base, with experience across all those products. So we have that depth of experience to draw from, that variability of the different products and the different solutions, that we can bring all of that knowledge and expertise that we've garnered over the last 30 years working with our dozens of clients, to bring the right solution to the table, and not just the one that might be popular at the time.
Doing what's right for the client is always a great way to approach business, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, we talked about clients, Jeff. Do you also have your own partner ecosystem, partners with whom you work who perhaps specialize in certain areas?
So yeah, we've dealt with many partners. Some of them are formal partnerships, some of them are informal partnerships. We deal with pretty well every piece of software, technology, solution that's out there, given our varied client base. So whether it's a formal partnership or informal, we leverage all of those relationships or formal partnerships so that we can bring those, the desired solution and deliver those outcomes that the client's looking for.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked before about different industries. Could you share and even though I know you talked about it's not a siloed sort of situation, what are some of the industries where you have been able to have success in helping your clients?
Yeah, so we've had very significant successes in the banking industry as well as insurance. Some of the large, heavy, high volume processing, the highly transactional environments when it comes down to optimization. We also do a lot of work in telcos, healthcare, do some work in government, payments processing, transportation, retail, manufacturing. So we work with pretty well everybody. We haven't run into an industry where we can't be relevant yet.
That absolutely makes sense. And I appreciate you sharing, especially about the optimization for some of the high performance environments that are out there. That's critical, and they need to consider that early on in the process.
Oh, absolutely. And some of those high volume, high transactional environments, you can make very, insignificant change as it relates to them, which when you multiply that out by the volume and the transactional speed that those environments operate at, can have measurable, significant impacts.
Easy to not even think about, and that's where that experience comes into play. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, and some of that too, Walter, it's not just about processing efficiency. Sometimes it's about business process as well. So understanding the business aspect of that process can sometimes have a very measurable impact on the IT environment, especially when it comes to our testing services as well, right? So unit testing, business acceptance testing, being able to drive speed to market as far as being able to deliver products quicker, faster, cheaper. So it's not always about how fast we can process a unit of work. Sometimes it's about how we can improve quality and improve the ability to deliver to market in a more timely fashion.
Thank you for sharing that. Jeff, this is a question I've asked many of the people with whom I've had a chance to talk on these podcasts, and I find it intriguing. From your perspective, has CPT seen the number of organizations who are starting to consider modernization projects increasing over the last number of years?
So it's definitely increased. Everybody's talking about it. A lot of the smaller organizations are executing on it. A lot of our larger organizations are looking at techniques and approaches as how they can move some workloads, right? Mm-hmm. The larger the environment, the more complex the environment, the more prone to failure that opportunity is. So they're looking at how they can build measurable outcomes around, can they take individual workloads or business functions and look at refactoring, rehosting, replatforming, all of those sorts of solutions. Because when we get into some of these large enterprise environments, being able to pick up the entire environment and move it is not necessarily a successful outcome. Some of that involves taking smaller pieces of workload, moving, looking at replacement products. So it's not necessarily always a one size fits all.
I think that's so critical, that there is no right or wrong answer, or a right answer that's right for everyone.
Yeah, you hear a lot of, I want to get off the mainframe, right? That's a lot of the conversation you hear. And, sometimes that's not even necessarily the right answer. Sometimes it's, we need to move some of our workload off of the mainframe. We need to modernize some of our workloads. And there can be multiple solutions that are the right solution for the client, depending on what the business needs are.
That's why I feel a company like CPT is so critical since you have done that and you understand the nuances of it, being able to help people understand what the options are and help them determine what the optimum solution is for them is critical.
Yeah, and sometimes retiring applications is the right answer, right?
Yeah,
if there's not enough business volume, right, spending millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to refactor or rehost an application may not make sense, right? Sometimes retiring that application or finding, off-the-shelf piece of software that could replace it might be the right answer.
That makes sense. And you've kind of been talking about this. One of the questions I wanted to ask, and I think it's an important one. So in terms of clients' modernizations, including some of the things you just talked about, does CPT have an overall approach about how you help your customers?
Yeah, we do, Walter. And it really starts with understanding the business outcomes and the business strategy. So, we talk about IT, and the reality is that IT is there to support the business. So we need to understand what that business strategy is, what the priorities, the objectives, the growth plans are, if there's compliance or security concerns, those sorts of things that factor into the discussion, right? To understand what that true motivation and the desire is, right? Those all then feed into what an IT strategy should be comprised of, right? So looking at their capabilities, when we talk about modernization, a lot of the organizations that we talk to come to us because they've got skills drain, right? So they can't find the appropriate skills to maintain the environment. That can factor into the IT strategy that the business may not be aware of. Looking at the partners, the supportability, application currency, end of support, and life cycles. So all that kind of plays into understanding the business and the IT strategy so that we can help them drive some successful outcomes. We talked about, all the kind of options that are out there when it comes to modernization, right? So that's when we look at, can we rehost? Is replatforming an option? Refactoring the code? And like I said previously, can we just buy a piece of software off the shelf that could replace that and move it to a different platform to make it, instantly available on the cloud, for example? The other option, which some people don't even think about, is, well, do we just keep doing what we're doing in some cases? And then there's that retirement question, right? So, if you've got a small volume of work, low book of business, maybe the right answer is to retire that application. But when we factor all that together, that's what we do well, is to help those clients to understand what that roadmap looks like. And it's not, the whole roadmap doesn't equal one of those options, right? The roadmap usually consists of multiple options, multiple solutions, and multiple paths, right? But we help them to build that from a prioritized perspective to help them understand the road that they're going down, because some of these aren't short journeys, right? Some of them take, months might be an understatement. It's usually, we're talking things, 6, 9, 12 months and many years in some cases, depending on the size of the organization and the workloads.
Yeah, they didn't build their environment in 3 months, and they're not going to replace it in 3 months. Understanding everything that they do today and the benefits that it has to what they do. I've been impressed by that holistic approach that CPT takes, trying to identify every component that's there and seeing what the best options are for organizations as they move forward. That, to me, is how you really do help them in their journey.
Yeah, and it is a journey, right? And it starts with that assessment, right? So, like we said, understanding the strategy, both from the business and the IT perspective, building that roadmap. But then, you've got a lot of work to do once you know where you want to go, right? You've got to build the delivery program, testing and assurance, how to operate it. It takes a lot of work once you know where you're going to go to actually get there. And that's the other place where CPT's strength is in the T, is in that testing space and building out the assurance that those platforms are going to be able to be operated and maintained reliably and scalably and perform to the end user's expectations.
Those of us in the industry a long time recognize that there is no such thing as too much testing. And that the beauty of the mainframe, of course, is that you can always depend upon it. It always works the same way well. And trying to look at different options to test to ensure that you're still able to provide that level of performance and accuracy is really critical.
Yeah, and CPT, like, we've taken the C, the P, and the T and kind of blended it together into assurance services, right? So we look at, you can pick stuff up and move it to the cloud, but do you know that you're going to have the right capacity, that you're going to be able to provide the right performance expectations to the users? And more importantly, is it going to functionally and non-functionally perform for your users, right? So testing is a massive part of that. When we look at a lot of the outlooks that our partners in this ecosystem have, close to 60% of the work effort that we see is related to testing. So, as far as being able to test in a very efficient and optimized manner, making sure that you've got the right quality and consistency and the right approaches to test effectively are highly critical to the successful outcome of one of these projects and programs of work.
It makes sense, Jeff. So I think you've been able to share some really pertinent and helpful information with our audience today. I'd just like to ask, as we wrap things up, is there a key message that you'd like to share with the people listening today?
Yeah, so, the assessment is really where this all starts. And the key piece there is, it's not just about IT, it's about the business as well. So understanding the business inputs, the business outcomes, what success looks like, right? That feeds into that entire assessment process to make sure that we evaluate all of the options and look at prioritizing those options so that we can deliver successful outcomes, right? Not just from an IT perspective, but again, it's the business that needs to be successful. So that combination of assessment, developing that roadmap, making sure that there's appropriate and efficient testing that's going to give the confidence back to the business that those outcomes can be achieved, both functionally and non-functionally, that gives the assurance that the program can be successful. And CPT is well positioned to deliver on all aspects of that program lifecycle. And again, we're a trusted advisor because we are independent. So we're not, we look at what the right solutions, what the right partners, what the right ecosystems are for the business partner.
I think that's an incredibly important message for everyone who's looking at modernization opportunities and options. Well, Jeff, I would like to thank you very much for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule for you. And I am sure that the audience, they really enjoyed the chance to learn more about CPT.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, Walter.
That was absolutely my pleasure. And for everyone attending today, thank you once again for taking the time out of your day to attend one of the Walter's World podcasts. We hope that you will continue to follow us, and we're looking forward to bringing you many more interesting people presenting information that we hope is very helpful to you. Thank you all, and have a fantastic day.